Blessings, a community of spouses. Listen, as we continue in our marriage restoration sessions, I want to bring something forward to your attention. So, I work in the medical field, and in the medical field, a lot of times we have to learn about the human body. So, I want to use today's message, comparing it from the human body to our marriage restoration. When you look at a person and you see a human body, you're thinking there are certain things the human body must have. The human body should have eyes, you should have a nose, you should have arms, you should have legs, you should have ears, you should have teeth. Well, maybe not all the time. You should have lips, you should have... it's just certain things that the human body, even on the outside, that you just supposed to have. If you look at a person, it's like, okay, if you see a person and they don't have an arm, you would say something is wrong, something is missing, or, it was some type of injury that must have occurred for that person not to have an arm. Or if you see a person who doesn't have a leg, you would say, okay, well, something must be wrong. Something have had to happen for that person not to have a leg. Because when you look at a person, a human body, you saying there are certain things that you are supposed to have. Well, the same goes as your marriage. There are certain things that you're supposed to just have in a marriage covenant. You're supposed to have compassion. You're supposed to have love. You're supposed to have communication. You're supposed to have sex. You're supposed to do things together with your spouse. You're supposed to be able to have fun and do fun things together. There are just certain things that you're supposed to do or should have in the marriage covenant. You should have trust in the marriage covenant. You should have honesty in the marriage covenant. You should be able to say, hey, you should be able to be vulnerable with your spouse in the marriage covenant. A lot of times people are looking at other marriages and comparing their marriages to other marriages and not knowing that maybe there is an injury that has taken place in your marriage that needs to be recovered. And so just like the human body, yes, a person may be missing an arm or a leg or an eye, but those things can be repaired. It may not be the same as having the original one, but those things can be repaired. God can say, okay, well, you don't have an arm, I can give you an artificial arm. Or you don't have a leg, I can give you an artificial leg. Well, you don't have an eye, I can replace and give you an artificial eye. And God is saying the same thing in your marriage covenant. Okay, you may not have affection right now, but I can restore that marriage to a place where affection will be there, and it will be even the better. You may not have communication right now, but guess what? I can restore the communication in your marriage covenant. You may not be receiving the intimacy that you would like to have in your marriage covenant, but God said, I can restore that. So don't think just because an injury has taken place in your marriage covenant that God cannot replace it, that God cannot fix those things. Just like the human body who are missing, who sometimes has had some type of injury that has happened to their body, God can replace those things. God can replace those things. Even if you was to say on the inside, like, oh my God, I have a bad heart. Oh my goodness, I have a kidney issue. Oh my goodness. Even those things can be replaced. They put you on the list. They sign you up. They say, hey, we need a heart transplant, we need a liver transplant. These things can be replaced. Anything that the human body needs, God can replace it. If there was some type of injury that was did to the body, God can replace it. Now, what ended up happening is it's like, okay, how bad is this situation? How bad is this injury that has been did to my marriage? How bad? You don't know what my husband did. You don't know what my wife did. You don't know the things that has occurred in my marriage covenant. I don't think my marriage covenant can be restored. And I want to sit here and tell you today that I beg to differ, because God is faithful. God is faithful. Just like God who created the human body, God also is the same person who created marriages. There is nothing, the book of Luke reminds us that there is nothing too hard for God. Nothing is impossible with God. God can do all things. He is the God of impossibilities. So I want to bring that to bring that forward to you today and remind you that, listen, it may have been an injury. There are certain things that you're supposed to have in your marriage covenant that you may not be having now, but continue to seek after God. Continue to give him the praise and the glory. Continue to thank God for the things that he's doing in your marriage covenant right now. Sometimes we have to even look at it and say, God, I thank you for me being in this situation with my marriage, and it is not being, at its best right now. I thank you that things are not going good, because you know what? It keeps me in alignment with you. It keeps me in fellowship with you. It keeps me coming back to you and communicating with you. It keeps me in my Bible. It keeps me diving after your word and going in deeper with you. You have to look at not only the negative things that's taking place in the marriage covenant, but also the positive things. And so I want to just bring you to one scripture out of Psalms 43. And it says, send your light and your truth. Let them guide me. Let them lead me to your holy mountain, to the place where you live. It is time for us spouses to ask God to show us his truth in our marriage covenant, to show us his truth in what it is that he will have us to do in this time. Do not think just because your marriage is not, quote unquote, what it's supposed to be or what it, quote unquote, supposed to look like. Do not think that God can't do anything with that. God is a God of the impossible. He specializes in doing things like that. He specializes in the broken. He specializes in the things that seem unbearable, the things that seem out of our control, the things that seem dead. God specializes in that. And you need to remind yourself daily that God is for your marriage covenant. And if God be for us, who can be against us? Blessings, spouses.